In tonight's headlines, Wang Yi meets Antony Blinken as China and the United States seek to improve relations. The number of mainland visitors to Hong Kong has edged past the pre-COVID level, but Chief Secretary Eric Chan wants to attract more. And Siobhan Hawley has failed by a whisker to clinch a second gold medal in Doha.
China and the United States have made another attempt to mend strained ties with their top diplomats meeting on the sidelines of the Munich Security Conference in Germany. Foreign Minister Wang Yi and US Secretary of State Antony Blinken both highlighted the importance of maintaining communications and promoting dialogue and consultation on Asia-Pacific affairs. Taiwan was high on the agenda. China wants Washington to be firmer against those pushing for Taiwan independence. Stability in the Taiwan Strait could only be achieved by abiding with the One China principle, Wang said. He urged the US to lift sanctions against Chinese firms and individuals and warned that anti-China initiatives by US lawmakers would only backfire on Washington. Blinken and Wang discussed people-to-people exchanges and proposed a meeting of senior officials from both sides to monitor the volatile situation in the Middle East. While in the German city, Wang also met his British counterpart David Cameron and called for efforts to put relations between Beijing and London back on the right track. Wang said both sides should strengthen communication and promote peace and security. Cameron called on Beijing to help stop the Houthis in Yemen from targeting Israel-bound ships in the Red Sea. Sachin Katwi, Cable News.
Chief Secretary Eric Chan says Hong Kong is eager to offer multiple entry permits to residents of more cities on the mainland. Currently, people in 49 mainland cities can travel individually to Hong Kong, but discussions are underway to extend the scheme. Taking to the airwaves this morning, Hong Kong's number 2 official noted that mainland cities have developed rapidly in recent years. Chan said the SAR would love to welcome more mainland visitors. Since the full resumption of normal travel across the border, the number of mainlanders traveling south has increased slightly from pre-pandemic levels. A record of 650,000 mainlanders visited over the Lunar New Year holiday, 10,000 more than in 2018. Some border points operated overnight during the holiday, but Chan said such arrangements are not feasible in the long run. He said transport services on the mainland should also be extended, otherwise visitors would still be stranded after crossing the border. Chan said there will be 80 mega events in the first half of the year, with one on average taking place every 2 days. He hopes such events will be enjoyed by locals while attracting more tourists. Janice Yu, Cable News. The government is confident that public housing tenants will be able to afford a rent increase, which will not be more than 10%. Speaking on iCable's Let's Talk show, Permanent Housing Secretary Rosanna Law said the current average monthly rent is about $2,200, with 40% of tenants paying less than $2,000. She said even if the rent goes up by 10% after a review in the middle of the year, the increase will be $200 or less. A public housing rent review is conducted every 2 years, and changes are based on an income index. Rents were increased by 1.2% 2 years ago.
Former American President Donald Trump has been ordered to pay $355 million to New York State for inflating the value of his properties in order to get better terms for loans. A court in New York also banned Trump from becoming a company director or borrowing from banks in the state for 3 years.
Today we prove that no one is above the law. No matter how rich, powerful, or politically connected you are, everyone must play by the same rules. Donald Trump may have authored the art of the deal, but he perfected the art of the steal. This long-running fraud was intentional, egregious, illegal. And he did all of this with the help of the other defendants, his 2 adult sons and senior executives at the Trump Organization.
Speaking at his home in Florida, Trump vowed to appeal and denounce the judge, the New York Attorney General, and U.S. President Joe Biden.
But a crooked New York State judge just ruled that I have to pay a fine of $355 million for having built a perfect company. Great cash, great buildings, great everything. It affects New York. It's mostly talking about New York, where we have a totally corrupt attorney general. She campaigned on the fact that I will get Trump, I will get Trump. Everybody's seen it. Letitia James, they've all seen it. It all comes out of Biden. It's a witch hunt against his political opponent, the likes of which our country has never seen before. You see it in third world countries, banana republics, but you don't see it here.
At least one person was detained in the Russian capital, Moscow, after a small group gathered to lay flowers on hearing that opposition figure Alexei Navalny has died in his prison in the Arctic Circle. The 47-year-old was regarded as the staunchest opponent of President Vladimir Putin and was serving a 19-year-old sentence on charges of extremism. Prison officials said medics were unable to revive Navalny when he lost consciousness after feeling unwell following a walk.
Navalny! Navalny!
The explanation failed to convince opposition supporters in the Russian city of St. Petersburg. Vigils to honor the outspoken activist were held in many cities around the world, including London, where a protest was staged outside the Russian embassy. In Washington, President Joe Biden blamed Putin for Navalny's death, but others are waiting for a clearer picture to emerge.
I don't think that Putin was himself involved in that level of decision. I think Navalny has alienated and angered some people within Russian security services with his anti-corruption investigations, with his accusations of being poisoned. He pointed figures to concrete figures. So I don't think that they were trying to kill him. I think that they wanted to make his conditions of incarceration as hard as possible.
At least 10 people, including 7 members of the same family, have become the latest fatalities in the incessant Israeli bombardment of Gaza. They were killed in the southernmost city of Rafah, where over 1.4 million Palestinians have sought refuge after most of Gaza was reduced to rubble. However, with Israel threatening a ground assault on Rafah, desperate Palestinians have nowhere to go. Egypt, the only other country which borders the besieged enclave, is building a wall to keep out Palestinians. Many of Israel's allies have warned that a ground offensive on Rafah would lead to a catastrophe and increase the number of Palestinian deaths, now standing at nearly 29,000.
A huge bright red art installation launched on Valentine's Day has won the hearts of many, but not Mother Nature. The 12-meter Chubby Hearts balloon that floated over Statue Square Gardens in Central had to be taken down this afternoon because of a safety threat posed by strong winds. The organizer took to social media to apologize, but promised that the attraction would be back when the weather improves. Those who flocked to Central were consoled by the presence of 2 smaller Chubby Hearts. But a controversy is blowing in the air after it was reported that the Chubby Hearts organizer received a $7.8 million grant from the government.